First and 10 and it's about to go down. Surveying the field of hungry warriors and the sound of many hearts to pound the drum beat. A war in the struggle, the more that you hustle. Reach the end zone for they touch you and hope that God and baby Jesus will bless you. Take the lumps, make it through before you fall to your knees. You give the lumps, second down a couple yards that you gain. Maintain when life hits you the hardest, gotta block out the pain. No interceptions, keep the turnovers low. When you rumble, tight grip, eyes forward, never causing a fumble. Never second guess, we move together as a team. Millionaires and champions, we unite for the dream. Third down, we got knocked back. The contact of life will do that.
Hello and welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man who most certainly doesn't think that water is weakness. It's Norbert Morvan.
In Virginia, high school football is a way of life. It's bigger than Christmas Day.
Do you understand that when she said that, my eyes rolled so far into the back of my head, I almost died.
So if you're listening, Norbert grew up in New York City, and you just don't understand how popular high school football is, right? Or you don't you understand the popularity, but it just boggles your mind, I guess.
And here's the thing. I went to a high school in the United States. There was a football team. I didn't give a shit. Most of us didn't give a shit. You know what I mean? Man. It was the 90s. I went to high school from 95 to 99. I mean, 95 to 99, New York City, you're a teenager. You know what you're not running to do? Go watch high school football.
Yeah, those are kind of the basketball years, though, aren't they? You had the Dream Team in the early 90s, and
the Knicks had just came from the finals recently.
Yeah, it was basketball. See, you know what's crazy? So I grew up in Central Florida. And I played football in freshman year. You play football and it's whatever. But then, it was never that big of a deal to me. You just go to a football game and hang out, right? You just hey, it's Friday night. Let's go hang out. Everyone's at the football game. It's a good place to meet. But then what happened was, I went down to South Florida and I realized how insane it is because all the Catholic schools down there with the tons of money recruit, players from Latvia that are 30. And
Stop it.
You know what I mean? But I had a really, I was very naive about the world of recruiting in high school until my junior year. So my junior year in tennis, we went 17-1. Our tennis team, we won districts, we won regionals, and then we went to states. And we're like, yeah, guys, we're feeling great. We're the only public school there. And I played this Brazilian kid who he was like, yeah, man, I didn't even play during the season. They just brought me out for this to get him a state title. And I won the first game and I just got destroyed. So I was like, man. There were teams called Cardinal Gibbons and Bulls and Jesuits, and you're just it opened my eyes to what high school, another level of high school athletics. Norbert,
can you imagine? You imagine? I guess it makes sense though in places where public transportation doesn't exist, and to go anywhere is an adventure that requires planning. Whereas in New York City, you hop on the E train and you can go anywhere you want and meet your friends within an hour or less, and actually, not watch high school football when you're in high school because you've gone either to the mall or to Times Square or Jamaica Avenue or Flatbush, and you're just actually outside meeting humans without alcohol and or defense. But even in college, I went to a D3 school, and I went to a couple of football games, but it was just I've always felt, if we're going to watch sports, let's watch it done by the pros. So NCAA, the March Madness and all of that, I've never gotten into it. I don't understand how people from Florida root for Michigan because Michigan is an awesome school. I mean, you do realize that, the kids change, right? Especially now with the NIL deals and stuff in the portal. So I missed out basically on a large genre of football type movies.
Got it. Because you just weren't interested.
No. Any given Sunday type stuff, those are the pros. Well, the fake pros, but those are the pros. So remember the Titans, Friday Night Lights, the movie and the TV series, Little Giants, you know what I mean? The Mighty Ducks. I want to watch pros do sports, not really amateurs. And spoiler alert, they win all the time. So
I feel like the 90s were terrible for you because there were so many kids sports films.
Oh
in the
God, so good.
90s. And you know, there's a couple moments that changed how I view high school football and college and football in general. It's
Yeah.
so I went to Florida State. I went to college there, and you know it's crazy. Like the Seminoles were good. We won the ACC. But like Florida State Seminoles. I know every college can be unbearable, but for me, it was like, hey, let's go to the tailgate. Let's go hang out, and then I had to go bounce, or like let's just go do some tailgating. You're at the game, you have some fun, you
Parties.
leave.
Right.
Like we were, I don't know. I feel like UF and took it a lot more seriously than we did. So it's, you know, I was like, yeah, football, it's cool. Like I enjoyed playing it. I played intramural, like it was cool, but it was never a part of my life. Like when the Packers played, that's when I got real emotional. But you know, so I got, but one thing that really opened my mind for high school football is I went to Houston. My brother was graduating from, let's see, was this the time? No, my brother and I went to Houston to watch my cousin Johnny play in a senior all-star quarterback or
The hell of a trip.
senior all-star game. And we showed up to this place and it was gigantic, Norbert. Like
Yeah.
this high school stadium was, you know, like it was like almost comical, right? And it was packed. And just watching this you know huge players and there's a lot of money there, and it
Yeah.
like all the people showing up. So I was like, oh, okay, like this is a level, like this is a level that I haven't seen at all, right? That was kind of like what I realized. And then I moved to Georgia, which is the home of the SEC, and like
Right.
You have Go Dogs, and you have next door to me is Alabama with Roll
Roll
Tide, and yeah,
Tide.
Roll Tide, and
War
just
Damn Eagle.
and it's just like it's a way of life, man. College football, like it's just a way of life, and high school football is huge, man. Like there's huge teams out here. So I guess for me, when I watch stuff like Remember the Titans and I hear talk about how important it is, you know, like I was around
Yeah.
here when the trees in Alabama were poisoned because I think it was an Auburn guy. It was either Auburn. We drove through the campus one day. I had to go to a Hyundai commercial, and we drove by to see the trees because they were dying. It's like they poisoned the trees. It's just nuts, man. So
Trees, literally the most
yeah,
non-violent things on the face of the earth.
like iconic trees. And
Wow.
so for me, when they're like, oh, football is this and it's important, you know, I guess you just got to get that small town mentality where, and this is
Yeah.
especially 71, right? Like there's TV, but there's some movies, but
Yeah.
small town,
Oh,
you know,
71, forget about it.
yeah,
You got nothing to do. I think that maybe cars didn't even have seatbelts yet or something like that. You know what I mean?
yeah. And
Yeah.
like, people traveled for game, like, people would travel. Like it's in the, when they talk about Friday Night Lights, the school system, the way it was there in small towns, but with huge football teams.
Yeah.
And so,
Right.
I think it's just a different way of life for those. And you understand that. But I guess I'm
I
just
do get
happy.
it.
I'm just happy that I had those experiences, because now when I see these, I'm like, yeah, I get it. Like I've seen it.
I get it. I get it. I get it now. I did my little bid in the Midwest, so I did get it more. But one of the reasons why Married with Children was always hilarious is because
I scored five touchdowns.
5 touchdowns in high school football, and I'm thinking, who the hell cares?
Uncle Rico, like used to be able to throw the
Yes,
ball a quarter mile.
So this is why Remember the Titans definitely hits different for me, and especially now as an adult, and all of we know, the violin swells. We know the treacle. We know that they're going to show us, yeah, it's racist down here, but not that racist, because we can't say or do certain things. And the brick that they throw through his window when Hayden Panettiere, Cheryl, is visiting, it was supposed to be a toilet, but they thought that would have been funny. And I thought to myself, a toilet coming through somebody's window during basically Jim Crow times. That's not funny.
No, that's horrifying.
That's even worse than a brick, because of the strength involved, first of all.
And the proximity
the torque.
needed to get like, much
Exactly.
closer. Like you could chuck a brick 30 feet from the street through a window.
Absolutely.
You're not doing that with a toilet.
Son, a toilet with no water in it at all is one of the heaviest things you will ever lift. Full stop. Because apparently, as much as this is based on a true story, they changed so much.
It's ridiculous. Well, so I found a quote from Bruckheimer that's really funny. He said, this film is not a documentary.
No.
He's like, when people start talking about accuracy, how accurate was Shakespeare's Julius Caesar? So
Come on,
it's,
man.
but here's the thing though. By this time when they were playing, pretty much all the schools had been integrated. They were one of the
Right.
last ones to be. You know,
Right.
the Will Patton had 4 daughters. They steamrolled every team. They steamrolled teams in the final. uh,
Exactly.
Herman Boone, for all accounts, was just a maniac. But here's the thing: I played football in Florida. My coaches were maniac. I had an ankle. I think I told you this, but I had an ankle that looked like a cantaloupe, and they're like, "You're fine." So it's
You're
like,
fine.
no, I'm dead serious. Like they're like, "You're faking it." I'm like, "No, like this is the definition of not faking it." Like they didn't
No.
do the water thing. You could drink from a hose from a little bit, and so seeing this, like Herman Boone had to be tough, and so I don't
Yeah.
know, when everyone's like he was a tough coach and people quit. I'm like, it was 1971 Virginia. And it was football,
Yeah.
and if he lost it, like guys, of
Yeah.
course he's going to be tough.
See, this is one particular instance where the coach is abusive, but I get it. Because you literally can't lose a game
Yeah,
because they threw a brick through your window when times were good. Okay. A brick that should have been a toilet. Can you imagine, like, when do the crosses start burning on your lawn? You lost by 3. White power. Like, oh my God. Yeah. So he's insane. He's insane for that reason. He's not Joe Clark in Lean on Me, which is another based on a true story that was wildly exaggerated, But this man, it was the water thing with the abusive in practice. Look, okay, you got to push these dudes. The whole point of a camp that is so far away from home is not just to train them for football, it's to break them mentally and rebuild them. It's not the Marines, Will Patton saying, but yeah, it is basically, because you got to break a man down to his particles and then reassemble them. And we're not just trying to get these people to get on board with, we're a good football team. It's your black teammates are not animals.
they are human.
Yeah.
Boaz Yakin, the director of this, who he directed Fresh in 1994, and
Great movie.
it's funny, they hired him because he's from New York, like he gets
Yeah.
Denzel, and like he can make
Yeah.
cheap movies. This movie only had a $30 million budget, which is
Can you imagine?
insanity, because like I don't know how good is this going to do. Do you need the racism in it? Are you sure? But they all right, so I actually have a funny story. So the coach, actually Herman Boone, he said that when he was, I laugh because it's insane, but when he was doing this, he said that the people in Virginia were so segregated. And this is a quote from him. He said, "In the 60s and 70s, you very seldom saw a black person using shampoo on commercials, using soap on commercials. So people that like I played with assumed a myth that black people didn't bathe." He's like,
Wow.
he said when the Titans showered at Gettysburg and they saw everyone using soap, they said, "Oh," they're like, "Oh, so I guess what they've been teaching us isn't true." Because that's all they've been fed, because they had segregated
Right.
television, they had segregated this. But while at Gettysburg, when they saw that the other players use soap, they're like, "Oh, you guys use soap? Oh, we thought you didn't use soap." Like that's how these kids, some of these kids are like
Jesus.
14, 15,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they
The
grew up
indoctrination.
and like so like that like so now they're in Gettysburg building them up, breaking them down, but also just realizing like, hey guys, like these are humans. Like these
Right.
are people.
Right.
And
Right.
but like that's how brainwash, like that's how insane it was. That's how like the hate, that how far the hate went. They like just didn't think they use soap, Norbert. Like so
This is what it is. It's one of the things when Roots was on TV in the late 20th century that they put the disclaimer that breaking news, slavery was worse than this. And this is going to be pretty much the worst thing we've ever put on television in terms of humans being abused. It's
wow.
always worse, the reality of what's happening. And they will tone it down to the point where, they use certain slurs, but not the N-word. You know what I mean? I watch a movie like this and they make a point, it's Virginia, 1971. And every time they say something crazy, I'm thinking, you really wanted to say the N-word, didn't you? Didn't you? That's what you wanted to say. I've been watching this other show about trying to catch John Wilkes Booth. Oh, they drop the bomb all the time
Manhunt.
in that one. Yeah, it's dropped all the time. And I appreciate the accuracy, because there's no way John Wilkes Booth was not just going to be, I don't like these dark-skinned people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
it's funny you
I
say that
get
because
it.
Wood Harris was talking about this movie, and he's like, "Yeah, he's like, I don't think." He's like, I don't think Remember the Titans reveals the ugly truth, and he's like, I don't think if it gets remade that Disney should probably handle it. It would probably be best not to
Ooh.
be handled by Disney because it needs to be played more realistically. But in
Right.
2000, but you have to like this is a PG rated movie by Disney.
Right.
So
Exactly.
did this movie do more hurt than harm? Like, did this movie
Mm.
open people's eyes? Like, what? So it's like it's an odd thing, like because I talked to someone else about this. Like, yeah, it doesn't like really touch on everything. It's hard, but I'm almost like this is a PG rated Disney movie. So,
Exactly.
like originally the guy who wrote this, he had a long journey to get this. Gregory Allen Howard. He said
Mhm.
everybody passed on it. The original script was R rated. There was a lot more curse words. There was a lot more N words. He said, but he said that literally producers would be like, "Hey, can you take the race stuff out and we could just do a football movie?" That's what people said. And eventually Bruckheimer got to him. One of Bruckheimer's guys got to him, was like, "Hey man, like I think we can make this for Disney," because he had made Armageddon and movies that were Disney adjacent.
Yeah.
And so they're like, "Hey, like we think we could take this movie, but we're gonna have to go from R to PG, but we could make it." And he said that everything was watered down, but he also said some of the themes remained. And also, and probably my favorite quote that I found during research, the the casting director Ronna Chris said that, "I remember being so afraid, but I said, if you don't get Denzel, I'm not sure you should make this movie." Like,
Seriously.
that's
Seriously.
what she said. And
Seriously.
what's interesting? Boaz Yakin said that Disney wanted it to be the Mighty Ducks with racism.
No, my God.
And
You want to
so,
talk about missing the point?
yeah,
Oof.
exactly. And so I guess for me, right, this movie waters everything down. I'm surprised they even let water be on it because of Denzel's speech. But it's you can't go the R rated. You can't go the Any Given Sunday in 1971, and you can't go like if Disney had this. This would be nothing. This would be the Mighty Ducks with a little bit of racism, like washed
Exactly.
out. So they had to find something. I wouldn't even call this in the middle. That would probably be like a PG-13. So they
Yeah.
found like something 33% of the way, and
Hmm.
is like, but it was a huge hit. Obama, when he had his presidential campaign, this played like the score,
Yeah,
Trevor
he used
Rabin's
the move.
score, like
He
his
used the music for the
dude, his
movie.
victory speech played during this. When
Can you imagine that?
it's insane. When Steve Jobs passed away, he just watched the movie. Like Steve Jobs watched the movie with Tim Cook before he died. Remember the Titans.
Wow. And
And
there it is.
like the Stanley Cup, like the Washington Capitals finally won the Stanley Cup in 2018. Ravens theme provided the
Mhm.
backdrop to the trophy presentation. Every NBC Olympics broadcast since 2002 has incorporated the score into its closing credits montage. So like LeBron James, this is one of his favorite movies. You sent me that clip. Tom Brady and Denzel reenacting it. So
Can you imagine?
it's in the consciousness, right?
It's it is the zeitgeist. It's not even in the zeitgeist. It's just this is for a lot of people. For me, Any Given Sunday is the football movie when I think of football movies. And apparently for the rest of the country, it's this and Friday Night Lights.
And it's like, what do you? Okay, like, so this movie watered things down, but do you think it still had a positive impact, or do you think it was like a negative impact? Like, what? I don't know. Like,
I truly did enjoy this movie
yeah,
because there are very few Denzel Washington movies that I'm going to put on and then just, this is crap. So that's number one. Number two, you got Will Patton, the greatest Southern accent doer in all media. His accent never drops.
oh my gosh, he's perfect. Yeah,
And he's always going to be your boy. All right. And then you got what to me is part one of the two-part series that we should have got a spinoff. Number three is none other than Jerry and Julius, the series. We needed this. We needed Jerry and Julius, the series.
yeah,
They are so fun to watch.
dude.
Their
Left side.
chemistry is absurd, man. Strong side, left side. By the time they get there, you're like, you know what? Racism is over. You're
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
You did it. You cured racism. You cured racism with just keeping it real and fighting. and just stubbornness. But gosh darn it, I respect you as a human being because we were roommates. And I also don't like singing Negro spirituals on a bus. Yeah.
Jerry
But
has
those,
like,
oof,
he has such a strong turnaround. Like when he calls, Denzel at Washington, he's like these black animals, and then he has to like hush
yeah,
up. But then, 20 minutes later, yeah, like he and Wood Harris become best friends. But they're perfect together, man. Like they're just,
they
you know what?
really are.
The best moments are when they're talking to each other. He's like, leadership reflects attitude. And like
Ooh,
that
man, that
burn
was
I
a
felt, like
bar.
I had to put some aloe on my arm. Like that thing burned
Ooh,
so hard.
that was
It's
a bar, man. That was a bar because both of them were absolutely right. You know,
yeah,
your boy Ray was an offensive lineman who did not block. He
Ray.
was actually offensive to black people. It was
Ray's the
very
worst.
ironic. Ray was the worst. And he, like many of the things, quote unquote, based in this true story, didn't exactly exist, but you get it. The same way that Willie's team turned on him in the rain in New York. There's absolutely gonna be some dude. Oh hell no, I'm not blocking for no black dude.
Hmm.
You go right ahead and murder that quarterback.
That that might be the most believable thing of this movie because like everyone unites, but then there's one guy who's like, no, like
No,
no, like
no,
that.
ridiculous.
Like, like that's gonna happen. And on the
Yeah.
rewatchables, they called him racist, which is kind of funny. But just
So
but like Wood
we
Harris, man, when they do the strong side, left side, and when he's like, "This is my brother right here," and they start crying together,
chills, chills,
and then he hugs,
chills.
Julius hugs Jerry's mom,
Oof,
and like, man, they're good together. Like they're
they're
and they're
so
like big
good.
dudes. They're believable. Like you just picture
Yes.
Jerry murdering a guy. Like Ryan Hurst
Ah,
was a monster in that movie, and like Wood
yeah.
Harris was great. You know, I believe. You know what's interesting? Maybe aside from like Ethan Suplee's big, he's a big offensive lineman. Maybe just a big high school. But like I believe the players. Like Kip
Yeah.
Pardue, I'm like, yo, Sunshine's legit. Um,
Ooh, he's a
like
prototype Steve Young.
dude, he's awesome. And like
He's a
PD,
prototype Steve Young. If you watch ESPN for decades like we have, quarterbacks stay in the pocket. They don't run. Okay? They don't do that. And that's why for a while Steve Young was a revelation. But actually Randall Cunningham had been doing that type of stuff. You
mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? And my boy on the Texans, what's his name?
Your boy,
Oh, the quarterback on the Texans.
not
He was
Carr
also he was a black quarterback who used to run out the pocket. I forgot. But regardless, running out of the pocket was
on the
not a thing.
Titans or Texans.
Uh no, in real life. The
Oh,
Houston, or maybe it was the Houston Oilers at the time.
Warren Moon? No,
Steve, no, not
McNair.
Warren
He was
Moon.
from the Titans,
Steve
wasn't he?
Steve McNair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Steve McNair, when he was on, he used to run out of the pocket too. That was always a thing. And they would always try to criticize them. Oh, you should stay in the
Oh
pocket and
gosh.
take the hits. And now here's your boy in 1971 doing the damn thing.
Dude,
Getting
just
his Steve Young. That's one of the things that Steve Young was good at, actually. Occasionally, just, you know what? I'm going to run the football. So,
you sounded like my grandpa. So my grandpa wasn't the tallest member on his basketball team, but he could jump the highest. So he became the
that's
center. And then he's like, my coach said, well, Eugene, you can jump the highest. So
that's awesome.
you're the center. And like that was his story. So you just reminded me a lot of, hey, Sunshine, you can use there's a thing called jogging and running
Word,
where you just
word,
run.
word.
And that's what you should do, Sunshine. And I gotta say, listen, another thing about this movie is we're talking about Sunshine. We're talking about Berthier. We're talking about
Yeah,
Petey. We're talking about
yeah.
Rev. We're talking about Louis. We're talking about Julius. Like,
Hmm.
you remember the characters' names in
You
this
do.
movie. Like the
You do.
characters, like Ray. Like, you know how many stock racists there have been in movies that I don't remember the name of, but maybe because his name is Ray
Exactly.
that
It's
I
a really
remember
good
him.
point.
But like, like there's so many of them. And I don't remember any of them. Like I just call them stock racist. And
It's a
so
great point.
it's when you talk about this movie, it's Denzel, but it's also like Herman Boone. You got Will
Yeah.
Patton in here. Like it's a good movie because it has a deep bench. It has a few moments that hit, and like, man, that Berthier and Campbell, like, watch it. Like if I was Boaz Yakin, like watching those two and watching their chemistry on set, I'm like, well, I'm good. Like these guys are
Yeah.
great. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think this movie's almost 2 hours, but it's really watchable.
It's
And
it's a good movie. Yeah. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, and all the kids at sea. Norbert is a cynical man. Okay. Even when he likes stuff, it sounds like he doesn't. Norbert likes this movie. This is a good movie. Is it full of treacle and violin swells that should let you know, okay, it's time to cry? Absolutely. But damn it, ooh, when you see Campbell and Bertier. See, and that's Campbell and Bertier. They hold this movie down. They're wonderful. And you got the two little girls. Oh my God. That's part 2 of the movie I need to see. I need to see the Disney Channel spinoff of those two. You know,
You need to watch the game. No. Watch the game. No.
you know what I mean? You want to play basketball? I just got my nails done. I would watch that TV show of these two. You know, one's a tomboy, one's a glamour girl. They live together and they have to figure it out. Figure it out. Cheryl Leonard's got to figure it out.
Like the neck
That's my
veins
pitch.
of Hayden Panettiere in this movie as she's screaming are probably one of the best performances. It's like little girl neck veins exploding during a football play. And she talks smack. She talks smack to Ryan Gosling's dad, like Mr. Bosley.
Yo,
She's like, the kid sucks.
It has to be said, okay? Gosling's character in this movie, very handsome.
Yeah.
Very good at dancing. Lover of not just country music, but eventually serious R&B. Objectively bad at football.
Yeah.
A terrible defensive player. Is he if you put him in the corner, he's getting burned. You put him at linebacker, he's getting run over. He was trash as a football player. He absolutely needed to be replaced by sensitive Petey.
And oh man, Petey's way. You know what though? All right, we'll get to Petey in a little bit. But you know, Alan, played by Ryan Gosling, at least he's heads up about it. You know, when a kid, have you ever been on a team where the dude just sucks and they're not self-aware about it? Does that so? Like when I played basketball, Norbert, I didn't have the greatest shot. My form wasn't great. I just didn't care. All I wanted to do was block the ball and get rebounds. Like I found much more delight in just destroying someone's shot
and like hurting people's feelings. Yeah, you're like a destroyer.
Like sending a ball 100 feet in the air, or stealing a pass, or reading a pass, or like getting a rebound. Like I used to love getting offensive rebounds and then throwing them out to my teammates, and then they would miss a shot, then I would get the rebound and throw it back, like for as long as I could until it would make it. Like that was my game. I got more pleasure from that. So, but like I understood that my shooting was garbage. So I mean, I was like, I'm gonna focus on what I'm good at. So
exactly.
Like, I think like at least he admitted to it, right? And at least he was like, Petey, you're better than me. To his
credit.
Yeah.
To his credit. And he was also an unrepentant racist who, you know what?
Oh man.
Black music is cool. Maybe black people are cool too. Oh, hey, my hips, they're moving and I can't stop, but I love it.
They sit on set and everyone was hesitant about the dancing. And Boaz Yakin, he's like, I just looked at him like a little white boy who can't dance. But I guess Ryan Gosling was the one who was doing the best dancing and like getting everyone involved because he was a Mouseketeer. So
I was just about to say Disney Channel connection. Word.
You know, this is really funny. And I know that a lot of them had kind of rough lives, but someone's like, man, whoever cast that Disney Club group was on fire. It was like Timberlake and her and Britney Spears and like, yeah, it just blew it up. But I like, it was just odd, man. Like in the beginning, he wanted to go fight at the store, and, you know, not a good kid. But at least, but at least he's like, Petey, you're better than me. Get in there. Like that's respect. And Petey, man, when he just, but you know what though? Some people, they can't handle that. They can't handle someone in their face, whether it's something in their life or the way they're raised or the culture. Like, you know, having people scream in your face. Yeah, so I get Petey. Like I get him. Yeah,
it's accurate. It's one of the reasons why there are so many debates today. Oh, kids today are soft, and that's literally something that every generation says about the previous one.
Yeah,
but at the same time, breaking news: everyone is different. Not everyone likes to get screamed at, and that's what the difference is.
Yeah, and Yost understood that. I think Yost kind of tailors it a little bit better to people.
Right. Everybody needs to be dealt with differently. If you treat everyone the same, some people are going to buck back. And Petey wasn't about that. Apparently, he was all state for two years, but not anymore because Denzel, baby, with his 3 or 4 monologues in this movie, just, you know, hey, letting you know, no, that ain't gonna cut it here, Petey. He was also the worst running back I've ever seen on film.
Who, Petey? Yeah.
Yeah. Couldn't hold the ball.
Better linebacker.
Had no moves. Better as a linebacker.
And you know, it was smart to bring in Louis as well, because like I'm a Navy kid, so he probably traveled all over the place. And he just kind of showed up. He's like, I want to hit people. Like I feel like that person exists. And also
Oh,
like a
yeah.
sunshine, like, hey, I came from California. And so he's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
yeah, guys, like, let's go eat. God, it's totally fine, guys. Like racism's over now. Come in this restaurant and we can all eat
It's
dinner.
done.
I'll pay for it. And then they're like,
It's done.
no. And then his teammates get mad at him. He's like, wait, what? He's like, oh, it's like it was interesting seeing him be naive. Now, once again, it's very watered down, but
Right.
there's moments in this movie, I think, that have some truth to them. And I think, you know, that's why Gregory Allen Howard kind of sticks up for it. He's like, yeah, man, like I want an R-rated movie, but this was they were the only people who were going to make it with some form of racism in it. Not
Compromise.
just, yeah.
Gotta
And
compromise.
it's I think there's enough moments here. But yeah, like but like I guess you got to go into it knowing it's Disney. Like this
You
is
have to.
Disney's version of it. I mean, in 2000, like remember we talked about Denzel? Remember him in Virtuosity? Like he didn't want to have a relationship with that woman because he's like, yeah, no one wants to see a black man with a white woman. So in Virtuosity, she just became a friend.
Right.
So like, it was a crazy time. That was 95. So
It was the 80s and the 90s, the 80s in particular. We had all of those commercials. Being different is being great. And they were trying to really change the mentality of the population, you know, stop being so friggin' racist. And we had the very special episodes.
yep,
And we had the
yep.
PSAs, and we had the Flintstone kids team up with the Ninja Turtles to tell you don't use drugs. And we had a lot of black sitcoms finally.
Martin,
The
and Living,
zeitgeist.
that was a great time, man.
Yeah, the zeitgeist was trying to change. The mentality of Hollywood was actively working. Look, man, y'all gonna stop being racist. We're just gonna put this in your face. We're gonna shove it down your throat. And at the same time, like Denzel is saying, you know, there were even some black people who I want to see a black man with a black woman on screen. And Denzel, his vibe has always been when you see him in movies in particular. My wife is black. When he was in not Virtuosity, the other one where the villain was the same dude from Cliffhanger, Third Rock from the Sun, tall
John
guy.
Lithgow?
Yeah,
Which
they
one?
drug him, and that's when he sleeps with the white woman. You know what I mean? So he was always trying to keep that 100. I hook up with black girls on screen, or at least brown women. Flight, you know, he hooks up with the extremely gorgeous Latino from what you call it? My Name is Earl. I forgot her name. She
Oh yeah,
died in
yeah,
a
yeah.
plane crash.
She's great. Yeah.
Nadine Velasquez, I think. So yeah, that's a thing that Denzel wanted in his movies. And I get it. I get it. That's his vibe. That's his vibe. That's what he's trying to put out there. So yeah, the times have changed. And yeah, like you said, 2000, not necessarily a time that everybody wants to see historically accurate, even quote unquote, based on a true story, fudged story, where all the white people in Virginia in 1971 are just hurling N-words and bananas at black people, even though that's probably what it. Great
Yeah.
movie. I love this movie. I do.
You know, it's I guess it's a screenwriting lesson on this is what I want to make. This is what will get made. So what can I do to make this clear 100 million in the United States, be incredibly beloved, but still have something there
Right.
to
Some kind of slight message.
to
4 times
cling
the
on.
budget. It's not a mistake.
And
It's
you
not
know
a
what?
mistake.
If this was an R-rated movie about that football team, this would have had a $6 million budget. So like to get a minuscule $30 million, they had to get Denzel. Dude, you know what's crazy? They only got $30 million. But Denzel, right? These weren't big hits, but he's coming off of He Got Game, which is an absurdly good performance. He's coming
Yeah.
off The Hurricane, another Oscar-nominated performance. So he's got a lot of heat to his name.
Yeah.
But those
Yeah.
weren't exactly huge blockbuster hits. So this was kind of like a return to form, not form, you know, like this was a return to like those were hard-hitting movies. Like He Got Game is incredible, but it's not going to make
It is.
136 million worldwide in
No.
98. So
No.
I think this was him kind of regaining a little bit of box office clout
Mhm.
at the time.
Mhm.
And I think they're right though. Like if you can't think of anybody else in this movie. You know what's crazy, Norbert? So growing up, I've never been tested, but there's a thing called misophonia, where when people
Mm.
smack gum or chew, I react horribly to it. Like I have to put music on, I can't look at them. I kind of freak out a little bit. I can't really like focus. I almost beat up my roommate one time in college because he's like, "I'm just gonna smack gum in your face until it's normal." And I'm like, "That doesn't work like that. It's like this
Nah.
isn't
Also,
like that."
off a GP, you need to fight him because
Yeah,
that's just being a dick.
yeah, exactly. And like I've lost it, and like just I really handle that poorly. But when Denzel smacks, I'm like, it's annoying, but I get it. Like it's his
He's
gum chew.
rakishly handsome,
He's such
bro.
a good
What can you
actor
do?
that when he
Yeah.
chews, because like he chews intensely. Like you know those people that just smack gum to be like horrible human beings or
Yes.
food. Like he's just doing it because he's in a pressure football game, and that's what you
Hmm.
do. So it's like even his smacking doesn't bother me. He's that good of an actor, Norbert. I
He
just want to
is.
let you know.
He is. And, thanks to him, we defeated racism with strenuous exercise, relentless fatigue, R&B, and yo mama jokes. Because that's when you also saw Bertier
That's
really
funny.
start to, I get it. Hey, that is a funny yo mama joke. you know?
Yeah, I mean, Louis crushes it. He's like, man, my back hurts. Your mom is so heavy.
So my number one beef with the movie was the watered down racism, but I get it. My number two beef, okay, the guy's name is Gary Bertier, right?
Yeah.
But it's spelled Jerry Bertier. What the hell is wrong with these people in Virginia just purposefully mispronouncing this guy's name? He should be named Jerry Bertier, not Gary Bertier.
Man,
You drove me up a wall when I saw his name spelled.
in high
That's
school,
obviously Bertier.
yeah, I went, yeah, Bert, in Hudson, Florida, with that name, we'd call him a Bertier. Like, hey, Jerry. Like, that would have been
I
his name.
hate you so much.
Hey, Jerry.
That's obviously a large Frenchman.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what the problem with him, though, is if I was in high school and I had to fight him, I'd be like, no, this is going to be bad.
Yeah.
This is going to hurt. And
Minimum rib
yeah.
damage. Minimum.
Like, but he's believable in it, man. I'm like,
Yes.
he's a big dude in this movie.
He really is.
Like, I
He
don't know.
really is.
And I was doing an episode. It was for the Out Now with Aaron and Abe podcast, and we're talking about horror movies in 2023. And like one of the guests, Professor Mike Dillon, was on, and he was talking about this movie, Anatomy of a Fall. It's a really long story, but I want to give credit to him for saying this. And he was talking
Great
about like
movie,
a lot of great screenwriting scenes happen when that kitchen scene when she and her husband are going back and forth, just dropping truth on each other. And you're like, oh, hey, that's a good point. And like, oh, that's a good point too. Oh, that's where he's coming from. Oh, that's where she's coming from. Oh, that was a good
Yeah.
one. Well, so
Yeah.
like they both make a point, right? Even if one's wrong or right, or that's moot because they're both dropping truths that have truth to them. Does that make sense? And that's why
100%.
that's why like the Julius and Gary.
That's why it hits so hard.
Yeah, because they're both like, hey man, like that's a bad attitude. And like you see where they're both coming from.
That's right.
And like that's good screenwriting because
That's right.
And then that sick burn that gives me goosebumps. But yeah, it's such a strong scene because they both have points, and that happens a few times down the line as well in
That's
this
right.
movie. And I think it's kind of an odd one because this movie only works if this was saccharine garbage. Like if this was, you just feel, I don't know, like maple syrup dripping from the screen.
Right.
It wouldn't work. It would just be insulting and it would be pointless. But there's a few moments in here where you're like, that's good. Like
Yeah.
so it's just a really interesting study in Gregory Allen Howard. Like he also wrote Harriet recently. He's been trying to get a Till documentary off the ground. He wrote Ali in 2001. So the guy's a good writer. And I keep saying this, but he watered it down, but he also kept some good writing in there. And so
it's definitely a well-written movie. It's just it's got just that treacle. There's definitely treacle there. There's definitely the treacle there. But like you say, not as much treacle as there could be.
Yeah. And it's a weird way to defend it. But I guess if you just look at it in context, and this movie probably wouldn't have been made. And it wouldn't have become as popular as it is without that compromise. So you're
100%.
I guess when people kind of say it's watered down, I'm like, yeah, but like it wouldn't exist if it wasn't. So it's a weird thing that you got to kind of talk about, and that's what makes it interesting to talk about too. It's not just fine. The movie's good. Like there's some really interesting parts to this film, and there's enough to latch on to talk about. And that's why I was excited. I was messaging you like, man, I'm stoked for this episode.
It's a very good movie. It's a very good movie. Hayden Panettiere,
Oh yeah.
She nails it. Wood Harris, for Christ's sake, he gets an NAACP Image Award. He gets nominated for a Blockbuster Movie Award. Where's the Oscar? He was
man, that
he's an
crying
anchor
scene in
for the film.
in the hospital, Norbert, like that's an Oscar moment.
He's an anchor of this film, period. He's the heart of the film. The relationship between him and Jerry Bertier. I'm not calling him Gary anymore. It's official. Jerry Bertier. All right. If we go on what they call the interwebs, right? And we type in 2000 Oscar winners,
Or 2000,
as you can hear.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Kevin Spacey, American Beauty. People don't even like that movie anymore, technically. So he should be supporting actor, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Winner that year, Michael Caine, The Cider House Rule. Good night, you kings of England, you princes of men. Of course, Michael Caine is fantastic, but Wood Harris in this movie, he overcomes his own bigotry. You know what I mean?
Even in 01, he could have been nominated with like Benicio del Toro, Jeff Bridges, Willem Dafoe, Albert Finney, and Joaquin Phoenix. Like he could have been chucked in there. He could have taken a Finney. He could have taken Bridges.
So it just these and these are the types of movies that you put on an Oscar reel to put out there.
I mean, like Pacino wasn't nominated for Any Given Sunday, and that speech that he gives at the end,
that monologue is chills.
Sports
until
movies
the heat death of the universe
don't get nominated much, do they? It's odd. It's like, hey, here's this movie that's really sweet and saccharine, but it made a ton of money and everybody loves it. And has a 7.8 on IMDb and it made bank. Listen to this opening weekend. So it opened with 20 million. The next weekend, it did 21 million. The next weekend, 13 million, which is not a bad drop at all. Then it did 9 million, then it did 8 million, then it did 6 million, then it did 5 million, then it did 2 million, then it did 2 million, then it did 1 million. Like it rolled all the way to Christmas, and then the Christmas movies took over. But that's an absurd run.
It's a hell of a run.
And so you look at that and you're like, who should get nominated? Like, I think Denzel has given better roles. He's great in it, but he's Denzel, which I guess he gets him overlooked. But yeah, Wood Harris, why not? Why not give him a nod?
Yeah. I mean, in the oeuvre of Denzel Washington movies, this is, with the caveat that Denzel is one of the greatest actors ever. This is not one of his best performances. And that's literally not because it's bad. It's just because it's, oh, okay, that's Denzel. That's just what he does. He took the material he was given and he worked it.
Mm-hmm.
But Wood Harris, oh man, that performance that he gives, any other actor, that's Oscar nomination.
Yep.
Seriously, because this is the type of movie for it. You know what I mean? When they're in the hospital at the end, he's bawling. And the mama tells him, no, don't go into the room like that. And he goes in there and by the time they clasp hands at the end, you're supposed to be crying. Now, I'm a misanthrope and a cynical man. So I was just, that'll do, pig. That'll do. Nodded my head. I gave it the thumbs up. But everybody else is supposed to be crying at that moment. And it's legitimately earned because the arc of their friendship is a thing.
Mm-hmm. Then they have one. There's like three stories. Like, what's crazy at the end when they score the winning touchdown. I was finishing this movie today. I rewatched it and I was just kind of getting a quick workout in. And during the scene when they score at the end, I got choked up and tears started welling up, Norbert. And it took me a couple minutes.
You're such a good human being.
Pull myself
You're a
together.
good human being. Yeah, you're a good human being.
But like, I was watching Sunshine Level people, and it's what's interesting too is I don't want to steal from them. I know it doesn't make for great podcasting, but on the rewatchables, they said that like there's some good scenes between Will Patton and Denzel. There's some good scenes between their daughters, and then Jerry or Gary and Wood Harris have some great scenes. you have wonderful scenes between Ryan Gosling and Donald Faison. Like it's just
Yeah.
it's like even Louis like has some good like so you have really interesting stories going out. Even Sunshine's like, hey man, like the Jerry, we good? Or Gary Bertier.
I'm sorry I did
Yeah,
that to you,
you
but I'm not.
incepted that in my brain. But like there's 4 or 5 memorable plot lines in this. Even
A lot of
even
great
like
threads.
Bertier and Ray, horrible Ray. Like it's a really interesting. It's interesting that there's like a few within a movie that's already jam packed. You have some memorable character interactions, and
100%.
like yeah, but the way that they come together, like just they sit next to each other, and then they just sort of like he's like, yeah, man, let's just get this over with. And it remember that stupid question he asked is like, oh, what job does your dad do? Oh, does your dad work? When he
Oh, that
says
was
that to him.
listen, and that's how you know I'm a horrible human being, because that to me was one of the funniest things I had ever seen in my life, because it was just super racist. Do you have a father? Yes, I have a father. His name is Peter. Oh, okay. And what's your dad's job? Oh, wait, does he even work? I was like, oh, that's a burn. And then I realized, wait, that's incredibly racist. So he played it up, right? And he gets to stay racist, right? The daughter, Cheryl, not racist as hell at first, literally tells a grown man to go away. Like, we don't have time to talk to you. She turns it around, Jerry Bertier, he turns it around. Emma wouldn't even shake Julius's hand, comes around in the end, because she sees not only is he one of the greatest linebackers of all time, which I think had a big part in it, but also, oh, wait, he went to visit Jerry Bertier in the hospital.
He's a human.
And Jerry Bertier's mom likes him, so maybe I can too. So we have that.
Ryan Hurst did a good job in this movie because he's homophobic, he's racist. And sometimes you're like, hey, but like Jerry's good. I'm not saying it like this, but like, yeah, but I like Jerry. It's a weird thing. Like they're like, hey man, you got to like call him a fruitcake, and you have to be outwardly like homophobic, and you have to be not horrifyingly, but you have to be racist. But then like with the way he plays him is very Disney, where you're like,
yeah,
he's all these things, but he's a good guy. Like it's an odd.
He warms up.
Yeah,
and he warms you up. He warms you up, and he's loyal. That's one of the things, because he absolutely doesn't like black people at the beginning, but he wants to make sure that his players play also.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to make sure his players play.
He gets a new daddy too, which is nice.
Who's your daddy? You are.
What's your name?
Emma, she's super racist at the beginning, and then she and it's an interesting thing, because when Emma, I'm coming around, but I might not get there with you. Goodbye. And that's when I realized, oh my God, something terrible is about to happen to Jim. And I wrote in my notes, Emma decides not to be an unrepentant racist. Then Jerry is crippled by a truck. Causation or correlation? Because I knew that something bad was going to happen to him when she just became super nice. And everybody, hey, Julius, come hang out with me. No, man, I got to hang out with my girlfriend tonight. Hey, my name's Jerry. Why don't you come hang out with me? Something bad's going to happen to you, Jerry. Why don't you just go and drive in your awesome car? Bye, Jerry.
And then
it was definite vibe. It was a definite vibe. It was definite lampshading that something bad was about to happen.
And he didn't get injured until the after the season was over, which is
in
crazy.
Reality.
Yeah,
right.
But man, when he gets that though, you're like, I like this guy, and then smack, and then you get the wonderful tears. They pack in a lot in this movie in under 2 hours.
A lot.
It's impressive.
There's a lot. And then we get he's not a machine, he's a man, as they said in Rocky IV. Denzel pukes before the first game. Shades of Willie Beeman? Are they related somehow? Cousin?
You know how much stress he had on his shoulders, though? You move your family. But like, I guess in 71, you just suck it up, right? Like in that day and age, you move to the South, based on his background, when he walked with Martin Luther King, he had battled the Klan. So like, he's not going to be intimidated. So he has to just keep everything under the surface. So, of course, I guess when he's alone, he's going to yak. Like, that's a lot of stress to have.
I can't.
His ulcers are bigger than my leg.
Yeah. He's got ulcers the size of his body. There's no doubt.
He's just one ulcer.
No doubt.
Oh man,
Denzel is one massive ulcer.
He's just so good though in this movie.
He is.
Like, what's interesting too? He does that daddy scene. Like he has to play. You know what's interesting is he has to play things. He has to be really rough and kind of a jerk, but he also has to be just a really good guy dealing with some like really bad situations. He has to be a family man, but he has to be a head coach with, you know, like, like that one assistant coach is terrible too. What he call? I hate that name he calls him, but it's like then he gets fired. So
Yeah.
again, come with me, man. Like so, he's dealing with, he's getting attacked from all fronts, and this little girl's in his face telling him how to play. Pissed off that he took her dad's job. It's I think he had to play it, he had to Disneyfy it, but yeah, I also think he carried all that on his shoulders too. So I actually think this is a little bit of a better performance than a lot of people give it credit for. They're like, oh, it's just Denzel. But you can see that he's also balancing about 8 different things while in a PG
That's
rated
fair.
Disney movie.
That's fair. That's fair. And everything that you described was literally just being black.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, you know, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, prolific shit talker, swaggy dude. I am the best. I go into the 3-point contest in my warm-ups
God.
because that's how good I am. Magic Johnson straight up is like, I can't do that shit.
Yep.
I'm black. I can't be that guy. I wouldn't get any of the accolades that I get now. They would have called me arrogance. They would have said my head is swell. And so there you go, man. There you go.
He had to balance all of it. But then that
All of
daddy
it.
scene when he's doing that, that's pretty brazen for, you know, this world in 71.
Bruh. And this is the thing. If that
But he
was
had to.
71 Virginia, you calling me daddy, they would have set that bus on fire, I believe. It's just my
Yeah, just one of them.
It's just my
Sorry, that's not funny.
No, it's not.
No.
It's funny because it's horrible. That's where true comedy comes from.
Yeah,
12 seasons of Curb.
I just want people to know that when I laugh about things, it's just because they're terrible. Like it's not me like thinking. I don't know, Norbert. Whenever something horrible happens, I just like, oh my gosh, like it's yeah. So I guess that's
For
how
what
I
is
deal
oh,
with things.
let me clear it up for the listeners. Mark Hoffmeyer is a good human being. Norbert Morvan is the misanthrope. And for you kids who don't know, misanthrope means I don't like people. I don't like them. I don't. But I love Mark
You know,
because he's good. So when you hear Mark laugh at something that is horrifically racist, it's not because he's racist. It's because he's shocked. And that's his response.
It's insanity.
That's his response. The only other response would be just to break down in tears and just curl up in a fetal position and hope that everything's okay in the next 10 minutes. There you go. I covered you.
Oh man, thank you, man. But it's this is but you know it's the amount of juggling this became like I think the problem for the screenwriter is, well, if we're talking from a technical area, this must have been a nightmare to juggle down. So when you write an R-rated one, you don't really have to juggle much because you can be like, listen, this is horrible. But when you're doing a PG, you're like, okay, well, I guess I need a white trash guy in here because it's Virginia, you know, like quote unquote. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna have some really country folk. So I'm going to toss in one of those guys, and but then I got to toss in one of these guys, and then I need a really racist guy, but then I need a slightly racist guy, and then I need a dude from California who's a California dream cake, and I need this. Like it became like I would hate to see the whiteboard for this movie because
It's
like
pieces everywhere.
yeah, there's a scene in 21 Jump Street when Channing Tatum's high on drugs and he's just going like science, 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 science on a board, and just when he turns around he thinks it's like beautiful but it's just a mess. But yeah, like this movie, the amount of things that they had to touch in this movie and the amount of like balancing to get the scales to not piss off people, like you know how much work that is. So you know a lot of people talk about filmmaking in regards to like, oh, it's so creative, look at that. But you know a lot of it's like, all right, I got to do this scene, it'll be 6 a.m, I need 42 lights, I need 8 cables, I need this, I need some coverage. Like it becomes spreadsheet city. Like every move, if you're a producer, you're in spreadsheet city. So the guy who's just adapting this from, you know, like an R-rated film to the Mighty Ducks with like racism, it's impressive. So I think when sometimes people write this movie off, you're like, yeah, I get it. Like it's saccharine.
No,
like
they
this is bad.
It's not a bad movie.
No, but like I guess it's saccharine, right? You can if you're super cynical, you're like, ugh. But also if you're just looking at it from a filmmaking technique and giving characters an incredible amount of balance to make a PG rated Disney film, he had to like touch on a lot of, we watch a lot of football movies, and recently, like Replacements, right? Everyone's one note in that movie. I
Yeah.
love the Replacements. Everyone has one note. That's it.
Yeah, there's no arc for anyone, basically.
But in this one, you almost have to have an arc for everybody. But then you also have to. But then they also have to represent a different form of humanity, because you can't just have 32 Rays in this movie. Like you can't do that. So you need to have one Ray. You need to have one Gary or Jerry Bertier. You just got to pack them all in. No, I don't know. That just seems like that's a lot of work for all these characters.
What you are saying is 100% accurate, and it's to the movie's credit that they pulled it off, and they pulled it off well. And this is a rewatchable movie. I watched it a few times this week, and nobody stands out as, oh wow, that person is a terrible actor or actress. It's just a good movie. Couple things I wanted to ask you about.
They never overcook their grits. I just want to say that.
I literally wanted to ask you about that. That's like the first thing. And side note that we need to do in a way that we did the Deep Blue Sea reading, we need to make The Mighty Ducks But Racist. We need to do that. We need to make that film. I think that would be hilarious. So the overcooking of grits. I've had grits. In case you don't know, I'm Black, for you people listening. I don't like grits. I find grits to be an abomination. To me, grits are technically food like fruit snacks or string cheese. How do you overcook grits, Mark? It looks like I don't want to say the word.
You get grits too hot, man. They'll stick to the bottom of the pan. They'll take forever to clean. You want to have a nice consistency. You don't want to burn them.
Okay.
You're creating
What's a good consistency for something that looks like xenomorph drool?
Oh man, I love grits. So it can't be too okay. So first and foremost, it can't be too runny. You don't want really runny grits, but you also don't want dry grits. So you have to find something in the middle to where the consistency is just enough. So when you slap some jam on there, when you slap some butter on there, and it melts into it, then you have a nice creamy thing. But it can't be too creamy, because once you put all that creamy stuff on it, you have an ultra creamy thing. But if it's too dry, it just sits on it like a biscuit. So you want to have a consistency where it's like you can slap it out with a spoon, but it doesn't try to like run off your plate. Like let's say you're like walking with a plate and you have it leaning. It doesn't just pour off your plate. Like it stays on there, but it's not just like it's not like paste that's going to stick inside your guts for 17 years. So you want to have like a nice consistency to it. So when you load it up with all the good stuff, it becomes nice, and like it just has a good consistency to it.
And here we just made history, because while we talk about this movie that's about race, we just had a white man explain grits to a Black man. I don't think that's ever happened in podcast history. So
the good news is I didn't just tell it to you. You asked me.
Okay, so that's my first thing I wanted to ask you about. Number two, I know it's high school, but Denzel had 6 plays on offense. Is he a good coach?
All right. Well, I mean, all right. Let's look at like Manu Ginobili. He just went left, or like
solid.
You also have, oh man, there's a really wonderful Dutch soccer player. All I did was go to his left. So I think if you have 6 good plays, you're in pretty good shape, because you run an option, you do the flick, you have a fast running back, a couple good blockers, because a lot of it depended on the blocking. So if you have those guys, you have a good arm, you have some beast mode wide receivers. I think that's it, because like, there's still enough options there, and you just get really good at those 6. And also too, like you're integrating a team for the first time ever. You probably don't want to have 43 things with guards and tackles pulling everywhere. Like you want to be grits. You want to be grits and potatoes. So
that's right. Consistency.
I think in this case, 6 plays was good.
6 plays, dude. 6 plays. When I run 6 plays in NBA 2K24, the computer immediately counters.
Well, man, yeah, but that's great. That's screens. Like that's like, you gotta like pick and roll. You gotta like pass. You gotta feed. Like there's like there's nuance there.
Okay.
Like, I mean, I guess like, but what about the triangle offense? Like they were like or defense. Like there was always the triangle that was effective, but you knew they were running a
Yeah, but
triangle. That
well,
move.
the triangle wasn't so much a play as it was a
Yeah,
formation. I
exactly.
guess the football equivalent to that would be the shotgun.
Yeah, and it's like I guess you stick with the triangle. Like soccer teams do that; they keep their triangles, so you know what they're going to do. They're going to keep those triangles, but it's just so good you can't stop it. Like
I
like
mean,
when like like Shaq or what Joker, Joker's coming at you.
right.
They're gonna hurt you.
Yes, they
So
are.
it's you just gotta like they only need 3 moves if that
But
makes sense.
but this is why when Coach Yost says they lined up in the shotgun, what do you think they are? The New York Jets? I was like, bro, how do you not have the shotgun?
Yeah.
Aren't you a football team? Why is the shotgun surprising? I mean, if you're saying the shotgun's too complicated for high school football, what the hell's the point of all of this expense that we're putting here?
If you have sunshine and you have a good running back in the back, you could run a pretty good shotgun.
I think their running backs were shit though, man.
Yeah, then I don't think the shotgun. Well, were their wide receivers good? They
And
didn't
now
score many
that
points.
you see, that brings up another point. And that's why I always talked about any given Sunday. They showed us the football. What happened in these games?
Oh,
Like, what was the score?
so like Herman Boone, the real Herman Boone, said that this movie's not about football.
Okay.
Yeah, he said, remember the Titans is not about football. It is about some exceptional young men overcame their fear of the unknown, which is what we now call diversity. They lived in the same dormitories, the same rooms to overcome myths about certain races. That's what Herman Boone said. So this is like the final game, they're down 7-0. Like in
Right.
another movie, they'd be down 38-0, and then they would come back. This one, like you're like, what's interesting? They're like, man, Ryan Gosling's getting burned all night. It's like, oh, what's the score?
He's
like
the
28-0?
worst cornerback. He's the worst.
But it's still only 7-0.
right.
So it's like
The other team sucks too. I got you.
so yeah, there's very little football in this movie because I don't think that's the point of this film. Like when I think about the football in this movie, it's the practice left side, strong side. But when it just comes to the football games, it's all sunshine. When he kills that linebacker,
He
like,
murdered that man. Yeah.
it's amazing. And then what's even better, if you watch it again, he murders a guy, and then another dude gets in his face, and Sunshine just throws his hand out to the right and like hits the guy like right in the face. Not like a hit, but it's like he just puts his hand on the guy's face and pushes him away.
You're right.
He's a monster. So I remember that, and then his blocks where when Rev is running, he's just murdering people.
Yeah, he
down
is.
the line.
He is.
So
And the ref is like, unnecessary roughness. He's like, on the quarterback?
Yeah.
That was hilarious. That was laugh out loud.
That's like one of the best. But like other than that, there's no football you remember, for me at least, in this movie. So
okay.
This is more about, you and I spent a lot of time just talking about the conversations. So
yes, that's true.
And
that's true.
And like, yeah, I think that's why.
All right. And oh, go ahead. You're gonna.
And also too, man, like after any given Sunday, I don't want to watch a lot of shaky crap. So it's that works for that movie because Oliver Stone was insane, and that's the only way he probably could have got that much coverage because he had to do that. So 100%. I don't want to see Remember the Titans do that.
Okay.
But you know what's nice too is they went to a training camp for this movie, and you saw a lot of the players on the field. There's no football, but like when they're running at the end, when it's Sunshine and Rev, they're booking it down the field.
Yeah, so they are.
At least that was cool to see. It was cool to see them on the field doing that. So
okay. That's
now I have a question for you.
Go for it.
Which quarterback would you base your team around? You have Sunshine, you have Willie Beeman, and you have Shane Falco. Rank them.
Okay. Sunshine, Willie Beeman, Shane Falco.
Whoa.
Nope. Right?
Yeah.
No, I was just repeating the names.
I was like, that was quick.
Okay. So we know that Sunshine, solid in the pocket, tall, cannon for an arm, mobile. We know that Willie Beeman, not that tall, decent arm, but very mobile, does his reads and will absolutely hit a dude with his pass accurately. Falco's had 90 concussions, survived some brutal injuries. I think his ACL is somewhere on the south side of France at this point, but cannon for an arm, super accurate. So I go Sunshine, Beeman, Falco.
Yeah, the concussions are what keep Falco last.
Bro, Falco might literally just seize and die on the field one game for you.
You know those
And it
toys
wouldn't.
they used to make where you press the guy's like chest and all his arms and legs fall off, and you gotta
That's Falco.
yeah,
That was probably a He-Man toy.
yeah.
That's definitely Falco. Yeah, yeah. Falco is literally the Walking Dead in football terms. And then we also know that Willie Beeman is hiding the fact that not that he had a shoulder injury, but that the shoulder injury is acting up again.
Yeah, and he lost the
So,
team.
yeah.
Then he won the team back. But
Well,
then
he had an arc.
yeah, that's
He had an
true.
arc.
And like Sunshine doesn't really have any arc. He's just a cool dude.
Sunshine is just rakishly handsome, tall, knows Eastern fighting techniques. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
But he
Cripples defensive players.
he murders him.
Sunshine has to be number one in that draft, son.
Man, yeah, you're not gonna
It's
have any
gotta be.
problems with him. Like
No.
he'll do the yoga.
Yeah, he's
You
a
know,
leader.
He's a little
He's a leader of
naive.
men.
He's a little naive, but it's not a terrible naive. It's more of like, man, I did not know Virginia was like this. Naive.
This is he was
you
in.
gotta
He's
listen.
from California. You could make the argument that if he's in a certain part of California, that yeah, they're still kind of racist, but they let black people in because literally black people money spends just like white people money. So we get it, So the same way that New York, pretty racist place, but hey, guess what? Black people don't get shut down necessarily from the lunch counters here, or at least not as frequently or as often, especially not in 1971, post Martin Luther King,
Mhm.
So that's where you could say that maybe that's where his ignorance comes from. I'm just spitballing here. Do
No,
not
you're
at
right.
me on Twitter, you people.
No, he just it's also his dad's like an admiral, so he probably grew up
Right.
with wealth and like around boarding schools or something, and he's good at football. So like he's had you know what I mean. He could be. It's possible to have what just you're up. You just think things are great because
His
like,
life resembled training camp,
And
tightly controlled situations that are not in the wild.
and his dad doesn't seem too bad either. Like his dad's like, oh, you guys like are cool. Like you guys actually are integrated, and I like that. So that's why he's going to school here because I want him to see that. It's like, oh, so like his parents seem pretty cool, or like not cool, but they just seem somewhat open minded. So yeah,
Everybody does.
he kind of grew up in
The
a bubble.
same way Yost seemed open-minded and then had the nerve to yell at Denzel when the brick comes through the window.
Oh,
Like, this is your
man.
fault for being
Yeah.
arrogant. And that's the thing. You never know. You never know. As a black person walking through life, you never know. Your white friends might wild out on you. And Yost is not even Denzel's friend, quote unquote. Like they're just kind of getting to know each other. And your arrogance endangered my daughter. And Denzel, he didn't, what the beep? That's what surprised me. I would have said that straight up. Like, can you imagine? Can you imagine a racist throwing a brick through my window and you coming to my face and telling me that's my fault?
You need to calm down, Norbert. You're getting
You know what I mean? The fact that I haven't put you through this brick wall shows how incredibly restrained I am as a man, even though I'm a psycho coach. Let me calm down. That made me mad.
Yeah. when like that's like the whole like
Woo.
like guys like, oh well, you shouldn't have dressed like that. You're like, well,
Right?
You need to calm down. You know what I mean? Like you're like, oh man, guys,
You
stop.
kidding me, bro?
Stop. Yeah, you got a window through. Like you got a brick. It was a toilet.
It should have been a toilet.
Man,
I'm telling you, if it was a toilet, that's not funny. That's just what the hell. The rage that is exhibited from a toilet coming through your window, I think is way bigger than the rage. A brick is angry. A toilet is, I really don't like you because there's so much effort involved. It's the same way, you buy your wife a gift card from Target versus a vacation to Aruba. The effort is something we notice. You know what I mean? That's why one hits harder than the other. Both of them are the thought it counts, but come on, man.
anybody can throw a hunk of rock through a window. Not everyone will pick up a toilet.
I needed
the
that
lid
to be
still
a toilet,
on?
bro. Can you imagine?
Like you ran with the lid on, like because that thing's heavy too.
Right? And what if the toilet seat was attached to the toilet? So you got the toilet seat potential shrapnel. You got the lid, definite shrapnel, and then the ceramic that the toilet, bruh. I think we've analyzed the toilet more than anyone has, and I think we're right.
Oh man, I love it. I'm so happy we talked about this, Norbert. I've been wanting to talk about this movie, so it's like, but there's a lot that these are good podcasting movies
It's a
because
great movie. It's a great movie.
there's a lot to talk about. You know, the
Yeah.
worst thing to podcast about is just a good movie.
Yes.
Because you're like, yeah, it's good. Like, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, it's just a good movie. Like,
good.
there's no like, yeah, it's good.
It's good writing, good acting. It's good.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Like this
It's
one,
good.
I think it had a lot of work to do. No one was going to make it. It had to water itself down, but still keep some integrity. It brings in Denzel. It doesn't really work without him. Brings in a
Right.
killer cast. Features, Gary and Wood Harris. You know, like Brian Hurst and Wood Harris being incredible.
Correct.
And it's just an odd one. And I think it does. Like, so I put a poll up for like what's the best based on a true story Disney film, and it got a bunch of votes, and Miracle actually ended up winning. And the main thing was like people are like, well, it's the closest to the true story. But I
Fair
also
enough.
so you know what's interesting? It was like 33 to 34 to 32%. And then McFarlane USA got 1%. Yeah, it was really close. For me, I think I have my nostalgia blinders on, so it's Cool Runnings, because just watching that as a kid, I just love that movie so much. And like John Candy's speech, where he's like, you know, if you're not enough without it, you're not enough with it. Like that's a truth
so
bomb.
bad.
But
It's
no,
a bad movie.
you don't like that line though? If you're not,
it's a bad movie.
Okay, Norbert, that line. If you're not enough without it, you're not enough with it. That's a good line.
I feel you, but you told me to look up Disney sports movies, and I saw Cool Runnings, and I immediately got chills just thinking, I don't think I like this movie.
It kissed my egg, man.
The Jamaican accents in particular. You want to do a podcast where we're on opposite sides? We do one about Cool Runnings, because I might shred that movie.
But see, it's one of those things where I don't know if I want to watch it again, because I probably haven't seen it in.
That's going to be a movie that I think that's going to be a movie that hits different as an adult.
20 years, so I don't know if I want to do it. But I think this opened up a new era of Disney sports movies, because you had October Road, then you had the Marshall movie, and it's like pretty big names in it. Like get Matthew McConaughey, get Kurt Russell. But I don't know, comparing Miracle to Remember the Titans, that's tough because
it is.
They're completely different beasts.
Yeah, it is.
So it's and like also, I don't know, like both Kurt Russell and Denzel are incredible in it. So
Kurt Russell is bad in nothing.
No, yeah, he's never been bad. He's always good. And speaking of never bad, can we do a Will Patton draft? Because this dude's been in everything. And
let's go. You want to do that now?
Because we've done a Denzel draft, so we've done that in the past. So I want to do a Will Patton draft.
Okay.
I'll let you have first pick. Man, he has a deep bench.
Oof. Jeez. Will Patton.
He's in Armageddon, that movie. We had a good episode about
I was
that.
literally going to choose Armageddon because I know that one off the top of my head.
All right, so you're doing Armageddon?
Yeah.
That's a good pick. Oh man. I'm gonna take The Postman because he has a gigantic role in it. And the movie is an odd one, but it's just nice seeing him be front and center. So I'm gonna give him The Postman.
Fair enough. I'm going Silkwood because that movie's awesome.
Yeah, that's a good poll. Hey,
he gave us the phrase Silkwood shower.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Image.
That's a good cast. Guess who's in it?
Yeah. Who's in it?
We were just talking about him.
Kurt Russell, baby.
Curdy Russ. Oh, that shower. Oh man, he's in like After Hours. That's a good one. People are like, hurry it up. I'm not going to pick the movie we did today. He doesn't really have much of a role in The Punisher, but I find joy in that movie.
He tends to not be a leading man. That's the thing.
No, he just works. Like he's a guy who's always working.
He's the character actor.
He's in Minari. He's a good boss in that. I love Minari. I like that movie a lot. I'm going to take Minari.
Okay, Minari. Fair enough. You know what? Just to be a jerk, I'm going with Roadhouse 2 because I can't believe that exists.
Jonathan Schick.
It's a 2006 direct-to-video action movie directed by Scott Seal. Jonathan Sheck stars as a bouncer who must protect the Louisiana bar from criminals. And oh, ladies and gentlemen, I just need you to Google the poster for this movie. It's absurd.
It just has him crossing his arms.
He just doesn't look tough at all.
No, not at all. Okay, so I'm gonna take No Way Out. I love a good thriller.
Solid, 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 solid.
I would not work for Jonathan Sheck in Roadhouse 2. I'd work for Gyllenhaal.
I'm gonna take Copycat because
yeah,
it's got my girl Sigourney, who absolutely should have gotten an Oscar for Aliens.
I thought you were gonna say Holly Hunter.
Well, Holly Hunter's also great.
She's in Copycat too, right?
Yes, she is. And Dermot Mulroney, not Dylan McDermott.
Dylan Dermott. Okay, I had a good pick here. Oh, the Mothman Prophecies.
There it is. That movie it gave the vibe of the Blair Witch, but just like the Blair Witch, didn't deliver. It was okay. It was okay.
There's like a big growing love around that movie, The Mothman Prophecies. It's interesting.
I think they were trying to recapture the vibe of Richard Gere and Laura Linney from the Edward Norton movie, where he changes, Primal Fear.
Oh yeah,
because they were in that together too, and they were cooking in that movie.
Oh,
but
man.
The reason why they were cooking was because Edward Norton just flamethrowers that movie. Just so amazing.
Yeah, I became pretty obsessed with Norton after that movie. Like, I had all the posters in my college room of his movies. Like, I guess I just like it. You know, I liked the Cusack when he was coming through because I felt like he was different and a little crazy, and I liked him.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Edward Norton hit, he felt like something different. Like, I always like when like actors like break out and you just like, man, this is different. Like, this guy's got a different vibe. Does that make sense?
Norton's a whole vibe, man.
Yeah,
and that's why he takes over the script and whatnot, and it just goes berserk. And I definitely feel that what he did with the Incredible Hulk, completely underrated movie. I whatever he did, I feel like it made that movie better. I trust Edward Norton to just usurp control and take over a movie. I do. Yeah, I think he's one of those people. He's passionate and he's good. He's not passionate and he sucks. He's passionate and he's good. He makes things better, not worse.
Preach. I agree. And like Death to Smoochie, what a fucked up movie.
Oh, Death to Smoochie is amazing,
dude. Isn't
that movie so funny?
No one was ready for that. Like, that's you know, it's like that's one of those movies that made no money because when people watched it, they went, "Whoa!" Like, I'm not ready for this. Like, it was
too dark
level.
It's too dark.
Oh,
it was too dark.
Even
with the redemption ending, it still doesn't feel like something good happened. Like, people have died.
Oh man, that was yeah. I remember that movie more for Robin Williams, but it's still what's your fifth pick for our man here?
All right, and my final pick is going to be I think I had it and I lost it. Hold on a second. Oh, Fled, because that movie's dumb. Fled is dumb.
And they tried to make those Baldwins. It's just they tried to make them work for a long time. It had Salma Hayek in it, Lawrence Fishburne. Like, that's a cast.
Lawrence Fishburne actually says, "We gotta Fled." Okay, it's a bad movie, but it's watchably bad. It's unintentionally hilarious.
See how they run.
We gotta Fled, Hoffmeyer.
No, don't do it, man. I remember watching that because you know it's interesting. Like, around that time, like Fishburne's great. He was always great. I always knew who he was. But like Baldwin had some heat, like Usual Suspects, and like when I watch Baldwin had real heat there for about 3 days when he did Biodome. So
look, it's always Alec, okay? Period.
Yeah.
Full stop. Alec has the range. They're all from Long Island, but Alec has the range. It seems like Alec has actually hung out with people of different ethnicities and cultures and absorbed all of the good stuff. That's why 30 Rock is a masterpiece. And that's why Steven and Frank and Lawrence, I don't know their other names and I don't care. That's why the rest of them never caught on like Alec did.
And
I'm Norbert Morvan.
What he did in The Hunt for Red October too, which is a great episode that we recorded, he does something different in that. Like that's why you like watching him, because sometimes he's just Alec Baldwin, but then sometimes he gives you something where you're like that's a look. Like none of the other Baldwins gave looks,
Alec
if
is
that makes
just
sense.
Alec is a whole thing, and also Alec in his prime, absurdly handsome.
Yeah, good looking dude. So I'm gonna finish with a trash movie, and I'm gonna go with Gone in 60 Seconds because
Gosh, I hate that movie.
it is. But you know what's insane? It's like Robert Duvall, Nicolas
Right.
Cage,
The
Angelina
cast is
Jolie.
absurd.
Like,
Yeah, the
you-
cast is absurd.
like, and then they have Christopher Eccleston, and he's a villain who just makes chairs. He's the carpenter. Like that's his villain role. And at the end, when there's a fight, Nick Cage breaks one of his chairs, and he's like, "No."
I made the unfortunate choice to see that in the theater, and that's one of the things that broke me. To this day, there are movies that I want to go see in the theater, and I go, but Gone in 60 Seconds. And then I start to play video games in my house.
It's a good soundtrack, but you know what's crazy? Because you're like, man, Nick Cage is like the biggest name in the planet. Angelina Jolie is like white hot. You know, you're just
Yeah.
like, man, this movie, you know, like Bruckheimer.
Yeah.
And then you watch it, you're like, man, this isn't it. Like, this is like, even when I watched it in theaters as a, like 18-year-old kid who was like, just, I'm gonna go watch a movie. I was like, yeah, this isn't it. This is not. The only people I liked were
boring.
the only people I liked were Delroy Lindo and Oliphant. I was
Absolutely.
like, give me them.
It was boring. It
Yeah.
was really boring.
Not a good movie. And then you have like that subplot with Master P. And like Vinnie Jones makes a speech. It's an odd one. But yeah, I like our list. You have Armageddon, Silkwood, Roadhouse 2, Copycat Fled. I have The Postman, Minari, No Way Out, The Mothman Prophecies, and Gone in 60 Seconds.
Okay. Sounds good.
We did it, Norbert.
Yes, sir, man. We remembered the Titans. We remembered the hell out of the Titans.
This is this is a very good podcasting. This is a movie made. Wait, sorry, I just burped. This is a movie made for podcasting. So it's just there's a lot there to talk about. So it's cool. I like it. This is a good time, Norbert. Thank you for joining me, man.
Man, listen, you ask, I obey.
So Friday Night Lights next.
I'm going to go for it, man. I'm going to try to understand what the frig is so exciting about high school sports.
All right, how about this? You
through
watch
each one of these films.
You watch it, and if you're not into it, you pick another football movie, and we'll talk about that.
Oh, we're doing football movies regardless.
Oh, okay.
I'm definitely going to get into Friday Night Lights, especially because Remember the Titans has helped me understand, what's going on with you people who have no public transportation and therefore no chance to leave your house. I get it.
Man, and that TV show is incredible too, man. Like that.
That's what I heard.
Man, Jesse Plemons is in it. Just the cat, like Michael Chandler got like not like Michael Chandler's Kyle Chandler. Like he's in there crushing it. Like Taylor Kitsch was on fire. Like you watch that show and you're like, no wonder they try to put Taylor Kitsch in $300 billion movies.
They tried to make Taylor Kitsch a thing. Yeah. Yes, they did.
But you know what I always like? This is really random, but I like when they try to make it like a good like side character who's very interesting as a side character. They're like, oh yeah, put him in a $200 million movie. And then they completely bomb out of that. And then they just become character actors.
Right.
And then you're like, oh, okay, this is how it works. Like now I like them now. Does that make sense?
No, it does, man. It does. And that's why I'm telling you, man, we need a movie with Jerry and Julius, or at least a TV series. And we definitely need Nikki and Cheryl. We need to put them in Thelma and Louise too.
That'd be an interesting movie.
Need it. We need it. Cheryl, did you bring my basketball? I told you I'm getting my nails did. I watch that weekly.
And Hayden, she's just a little north of precocious, but
yeah,
she's still good in it. Like she's 9. Like I think she's just a little person. Like she's older than what she seems. And then she's just pissed off and mouthy.
And she gets an arc.
Yeah. Oh man, I love it. Well, hey, dude, this was awesome, Norbert. Where can people find you?
At Eddie Kane on the tweeters. I'm not calling it X. Deal with it.
All right, this is awesome. So for me, Mark Hoffmeyer, for Norbert Moravan, this is the Movie Smells of Flicks. We'll see you next week.
Camp over now, huh?